Okay, finally, so a few technical glitches today. So finally underway, about a little bit later than I expected. So I just want to say thanks for joining me today. I'm Deborah, owner of Nourish and registered naturopath and massage therapist with NMHNZ. And I talk a lot about mental wellness in my clinical practice, and I do regular Facebook Lives and blogs and newsletters and things about the high levels of stress that people are experiencing at the moment and over the past 3 years. So the mental wellness thing is very much a focus of my clinical work, and the majority of my clients that I work with, I'm dealing with a lot of high stress and stress-related illnesses, injuries, and quite a lot of burnout. So there's definitely something different about the energy around us at the moment, and it's having a big impact on our health. So I approach everything and anything I do from a naturopathic perspective, which is about looking at the whole body and how everything works together in the best possible way. And my take, excuse me, I've had COVID, so I'm just got a little bit of it throwing around at the moment, but everything we do, put in and on our body, has an impact on our health. And one of the key aspects of maintaining overall health is maintaining a high level of mental wellness, or mental health and well-being. And I'll talk a little bit about what that all means from my perspective. So that's what today's conversation is all about. If you've got questions and you are watching this live, just pop them into the chat. Please keep your microphone muted, and you can turn your camera on or off. I don't mind. I'm not particularly invested one way or the other. So let's, no, that's not working. There we go. Got real issues with the PowerPoint. I was working earlier when I tested it, and then now it's just decided to play up a little bit. So what I'm looking at today is, what is mental wellness? 3 key aspects that I'm just going to cover very quickly, which are health and wellness the same thing? That's always a big conversation, and I don't know that there's any one particular right or wrong answer. Just some ideas and concepts about how mental wellness might look for you, because we're all unique individuals, and 5 things that I have decided in my wisdom that may help you reset your mental wellness. And I like 5. 5 is a good number. It's not too many, it's not too few, it's an odd number. So there's always that kind of little extra thing that you can do. You're never quite halfway, you're either slightly under or slightly over. And I find that that kind of works really well for my clients and me in my clinic. Got some weird thing going on here. Okay, so what I've done is I've got health versus wellness. Are they the same thing? The World Health Organization and various other factors that come into our naturopathic practice define health as the state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, not just the absence of diseases or infirmity. So it is all about a wholeness of self and looking at what is working for us and what is not. Wellness is a bit more of a process. So it's the establishment and maintenance of optimum health and balance. And I really like the concept of wellness being a work in progress, because it means that we're always kind of working towards something, but it's going to be on an ever-changing playing field. And a little bit like trying to plan an outdoor event at the moment in New Zealand, where one day you've got beautiful sunshine and 24 degrees, and the next day you're looking at 3 degrees and snow almost down to our backyards. So when we're healthy, we feel good and everything is trucking along nicely. Wellness is one process to get healthy. And I've put a little graphic together. I'm quite into doing these little graphics. I think they're very useful as a visual aid to what I'm trying to talk about. And I've just called it integrated health. It's really looking at the aspects that have an impact on each other. So you've got your mental and physical at the top and bottom. Mental being anything in the brain. So the brain obviously governs what happens with the physical body, and the physical body is the structure and function of our day-to-day being. Out to the sides, we've got our social. So that encompasses any kind of community involvement, interaction that we have with family and friends. And then we have our spiritual, which is our belief system, our faith, our inner core, our values, all of that sort of stuff makes up our spiritual well-being, and they're all very much intertwined. They work for and against each other, they work alongside each other, sometimes they all work together at the same time, sometimes it's one that's governing all the rest. My biggest frustration around mental health is that it is often regarded as a separate thing. And I know, when we see clients as naturopaths, they come and they go, oh, I've got this, I am type 2 diabetes. It doesn't define you. Mental health and mental illness doesn't define you. It's one aspect of your wellness and your process to being healthy and well. So it is very much part of that whole bigger picture. And I'm having to change screens. So how I view mental wellness. So this is very much from my perspective, after being a naturopath in clinic for a number of years, working with clients who are stressed, working with people who have hit burnout, and a lot of people really don't understand where they're at on that burnout scale. Many of us are familiar with the kind of flight or fight response, which is that intrinsic, do we stand and fight it out, or do we run away because actually we're going to get defeated kind of thing. And that is really the core of any kind of stress response. When that happens, you are having to make decisions very quickly, and often what we do is we make decisions based on the information available to us at that time. It may or may not be the best thing long term, but it's going to save us in that situation. So the thing with mental wellness is looking at it from a long-term perspective and having a bit of structure, having a bit of a plan, having some tips, tricks, having a basket. I often talk to my clients about having a basket of tools. Now, it might not be a physical basket that lives in your pantry. It might just be a virtual basket. It might just be something that you can go to, or it might be certain things that you reach for when you become unwell. So from a mental health perspective, there's a lot of factors involved. Mental wellness for me, and this is the best definition that I could find, and the best explanation, is the connection between the psychological state and the physiological. So the physiological being the structure and function, the psychological being all that lovely brain activity. So your well-being, your wellness, your health, anything like that is uniquely yours. There is no one size fits all. So anything we recommend always is adapted by you to suit yourself. Mental wellness encompasses a few key aspects that are vital to maintaining our mental health and well-being. So I'm going to look at those in a moment. But I do want to stress the fact that you own your health. The first thing to remember is that we get to choose. Anything that happens to us, we are choosing. Now, the choices might be a bit crappy. They might not be the best. And an example of something that's caused a great deal of grief and stress around New Zealand is to vaccinate or not vaccinate. It was vaccinate, keep your business open, not vaccinate, be unemployed. Two really shitty choices for most people. And I think we all went through a process of deciding for ourselves what we felt was ultimately going to give us the best outcome. And I think it's really important to understand that process when it comes to anything to do with your personal health. So the choice we have is how we react, how we behave, what we say, what we think. And one of the things that I use as a little bit of an analogy is the idea of committees. So if you imagine that your brain is made up of two committees, we know there's a left and a right part of our brain. There's more to it than that. This is a very simplified way of looking at it. They don't always agree. Committees don't always agree within themselves, and the two committees don't always necessarily agree, because one is looking at governing the autonomic function, the stuff that keeps us going day to day, and the other is the psychosocial function. So that's the kind of mental wellness stuff. And the structure and function is probably going to win out primarily because, without it, we don't really have much going. But they work really hard all the time to find balance. But often that balance isn't always the best outcome for us. So down the track, once we've gone through whatever it is that we're going through, we can then choose how we address that moving forward. Sometimes we need a mediator. So the mediator in this situation is you. So you're the one that puts the line in the sand and says, right, I've had enough of this. What do I need to do to get myself out of this hole, out of this quicksand? And again, I come back to this is where having some tools in your basket will help you work out what the best choice is for you at that time. So Three key aspects of mental wellness that I'm really keen on, that I focus on, is what I've clarified or classified really as emotional well-being. So that's our happiness, joy, love kind of stuff. Psychological well-being, which is our relationships, managing our responsibilities and our satisfaction with life. And then our social well-being, which is the contributive side, the positive contribution. As members of a community, we want to be contributing positively to our community, having a sense of purpose, being needed, and feeling a connection with others. Now, obviously, there are exceptions to all of these rules. Some people don't actually want to be connected. Some people want to live on their own, but their connection then becomes with their environment. So, you know, it's looking at what that choice is best for you at that time. Okay, now let's get into a little bit of nitty gritty here. We're looking at top 5. So I talked about the top 5s a moment ago. So this is the top 5 mental wellness. Looking at the 5 things that may help you reset your mental wellness. Nothing about our health is a standalone experience. So everything tries to work together, and mental wellness needs support from your whole body. So the key behind anything is without the right nutrients, without the right environment, your mental health and well-being will decline. Your wellness process is not going to truck along very well. And I popped a little quote in there from Hippocrates that says, "From the brain and from the brain only arise our pleasures, joys, laughter, and jest, as well as our sorrows, pains, grief, and tears." And I thought that was actually quite a nice little thing, just to put in, simply to kind of look at how the brain is in fact actually functioning. Okay, so we get into a little bit of nitty gritty here, looking at these resources. So one of the things that I have available to my clients through an online membership platform that is entirely free is a thing called My Top 5. And the My Top 5 are some checklists that I've devised for people to use. So we have a daily health check, we have an immune one, I think we've got a mood and stress one. There's about 3 or 4 of them at the moment. The daily health check one is the one I use primarily, and it's just something really simple for people to kind of check in with themselves over the period of a week. So you just fill in every day, you put a little score, you put a smiley face, you rate your day out of 1 to 10, whether you've had nutrition or whatever it is that you've done, and you look at it at the end of the week and you go, actually, I didn't really treat myself very well this week. I needed to eat more, I needed to drink more water, and all that sort of stuff. So every time I do a webinar, I create a new one. I haven't actually created one for this because I've come up with these other little graphics, but down the track I probably will. So they support a particular theme. So today's one is obviously about mental wellness. So I will be emailing everybody that registered for this with the link. I'll send out the notes and a link to sign up to that free resource so that you can have a look at what's in there. It contains a whole raft of stuff. It contains stuff that I've written. It contains things that I'm sharing on behalf of some of the suppliers that I use, who give me that information to share with my clients. So I can upload all sorts of really good information in there. So for today, what I'm wanting you to think about is this as the start of your own personal plan. So the 5 things that I've identified as being core to mental wellness, I've popped into this little circle with you or me as being, you know, the person in the middle, and the things that I need to recognize might be impacting my mental wellness and my mental health and well-being. So the idea is that when you have a day where you think, I'm a bit stressed, I'm not sleeping, I'm feeling a bit grumpy, you know, what is it that I can go to? Where can I go to actually kind of go, right, these are the things I know work for me. This is what I need to do. So you can slowly work your way through the list, and I'll talk a little bit more about writing up a plan in the next slide. But looking at these 5 things, so nutrition, we know that nutrition is one of the core foundations. It's always a contributor to anything relating to our health, and it is particularly associated with mental health. even though we may not recognize it. It's really important to make a list of foods that you know you can manage and that you know will help you feel better if you're having a bad day, and you put them in the make me feel good category. So we're looking at things like, you know, for an example, I know when I'm a bit fatigued and tired, you know, there's the tendency to go for that instant gratification of something sweet or carby or starchy. What I actually need is a good breakfast smoothie. So I'll add a half banana, some berries, a bit of protein, some coconut oil, a little bit of you know, some frozen fruit's really good because it makes it nice and thick. I use plant-based milks. I'm not a dairy drinker, haven't been for nearly over 20 years now. And I know that, and I can add a bit of cacao, I can add some peanut butter, and all of that stuff is actually going to make me feel well, as long as it's nice and thick and sort of yummy and crunchy. And I'll feel satisfied, and I can add things like any of my powdered supplements that I might need. I might add some greens by way of spinach or kale or a green powder, and I know that that's something I can do. But I often forget that. I often go out to the kitchen and I'm like, I just can't be bothered. But if I look at my little picture on my pin board in my kitchen, I'm like, come on, girl, snap out of it, get on with it, just do it. And I know that I'll feel better at the end of it. So it is an effort, even for me, but it's well worth doing. The next one says be not do, and this is a thing that was drummed into me when I very first started my massage training, was about being human beings, not human doings. And I think we are, you know, we've had a lot of lockdowns and time out in the last couple of years, and we are now much more aware of how productive we can be by not being at work in an office, but also how isolated we are. So there's a fine line with where we're at the moment and how we be not do. I think the thing is not to start filling the gaps with stuff. It's okay to hang out with yourself. It's okay to be bored. It's a good thing to just sit and contemplate your navel on the couch for half an hour. You know, there's nothing wrong with that, finding that little bit of time. And a lot of my clients will say, yeah, but if I do that, I fall asleep. And it's like, yeah, but that's because you're exhausted. You know, the fact that you're sitting there and falling asleep says to me that you're just in this state of constant doing. So we want to chill out for a little bit, stop, rest, relax, watch a movie, have a bath. You know, I'm not suggesting we go and open a bottle of wine or anything like that. Not that I'm against that, but I don't think that's particularly beneficial when you're hitting a low ebb. Alcohol doesn't help. So it kind of has an instant gratification, but it long term isn't really going to do much at all. What's my plan? So I'll talk about that coming up, but this is really about the basics of having something in writing or in pictures, like images or a bit of color, and it could be a mind map, it could be a list, whatever works for you. You want to be able to grab it and not have to think too hard about where to start, looking at why perhaps this is happening. Or, you know, if you're starting to get disrupted sleep, go back to your mental wellness and go back to your plan. Get social, pretty obvious. Isolation is a huge problem, has been a huge problem. And up until recently, it was a problem for anyone in a rest home, hospitals, weren't allowed visitors, you know, all that, those times when you're at your lowest, especially in a hospital, and people weren't even allowed in to visit. I just could not understand that at all. From a get well perspective, you know, there's so much research around companionship supporting recovery from illness and injury that I think our hospitals have just got it wrong, but that's an opinion. So it's about taking yourself out of the physical space that you're in. And I know for many people, it's really difficult to get out and to start socializing. Go out your front door, walk around the block, come back in again. That's all you have to do. Just get out of that space, shut the door, walk away from it, allow yourself a break and come back. Then you can kind of go, actually, maybe I'll go to the library, or maybe I'll just go for a walk down the street where I know there's other people. I don't have to talk to anybody, but I might just want to see that there's other people around. You might go and you might have dogs, you might have a horse, you might go for a horse ride, whatever it takes. And the next bit is fun. So fun is a really important part of being well, and we often hear about smile yoga, laugh yoga, all sorts of things like that. But you know, the truth of the matter is, when you have a good giggle or a good crazy dance to some 80s music, or you sing along to your own home-based karaoke where nobody else can hear you but you, you just feel a whole shitload better. So I think it's really, really important. And it looks different to all of us. So I'm not going to make a list of fun stuff. You know, I enjoy gardening. Sometimes gardening's a chore. Sometimes I really just enjoy getting out and getting my hands in the dirt and seeing the worms come up. And, you know, I'm desperately trying to make a wetter hotel in my garden, but the wetters just don't seem to want to come to my garden, which is really disappointing because I love wetters. I like running, I like walking the dog, I like cycling. Some of you will know I do a lot of long distance cycling, although this year it's not really been happening for me, but I'll get back out there again. I like a good giggle, I like going to the movies, and one of the things I do for myself periodically is I just take myself of an afternoon down to the Lighthouse of Tony and grab a coffee and sit there and watch a movie, and I feel like I'm playing hooky for the afternoon, and it's actually really cool. And even just catching up with friends for coffee, you know, just sharing a bit of a laugh in a week, and you know, it's just nice to offload and go away and come home again. So that's really the core essence of the key 5 things. And it's just something for you to kind of think about at a very high level. This is a very easy to do stuff. This is not having to sit down and write a thoughts journal or be really in depth. We're not getting into, you know, an hour's worth of meditation a day or anything like that. It's just looking at what you can easily do. So top 5 again has expanded into this list, and this is just a list that I made up of things that I think you can write down. So it's a little bit like you know, we have our earthquake plan, you know, what we grab, our grab and go bag, our who we call, what we do, where we meet, all that sort of stuff. This is purely and simply around getting your head back in its game again. So the top of the list is water. Am I dehydrated? Dehydration can cause all number of things, from headaches through to fatigue, through to brain fog, to all sorts of different things. And it is often a simple task. It's the same as if you suddenly find yourself bored and hungry. You know, are you actually just dehydrated? It's funny, as soon as I mention that, I feel like drinking water. But anyway, food. Am I hungry? What did I eat? So this is looking at, you know, have you actually eaten today? Did you have a substantial dinner last night? Or did you have a bottle of wine and some fish and chips? What have I eaten that might have triggered this response? And there are foods that we react to that will cause different things to happen. And these are in no particular order other than water. Water is always at the top. Water and nutrition, kind of interchangeable, top 2. Doesn't really matter what comes underneath it. Exercise, get moving, pretty straightforward. Like I said, go out the front door, go for a walk around the block, come back again. Stress. So I put stress, it should really say de-stress, but it's about breathing, relaxing, stretching, and meditating. Any number of those things. So one of the things I quite often do during the day is I might go and have a lie down on my foam roller, and I roll around and loosen my back up, and I suddenly feel a whole lot less stressed and a little bit more energized. Of late, as I get over the COVID fatigue, I've been having a few little afternoon naps, and I set my timer for about 20 minutes. 20 minutes has been proven to be an optimal time. If you can relax enough, you will doze off, and then the alarm will go off and you'll get up and you'll actually feel really refreshed. 30 minutes is starting to push that limit. So at 30 minutes, you're starting to get into a deep sleep, and anything over that, actually you are needing to sleep for longer, because you're going to be putting your body into a sleep state, not just a re-energized state. Herbs, I've got check your stash. So you might have things growing in your garden that can help. You might have some lemon balm. You might go and pick some lemon balm or some lemon verbena, or you might have passiflora. You might have any number of things that you have access to that you know will help you to focus. And there's so many different things you can do. You might make yourself a fresh ginger tea with a little bit of thyme in it to just kind of clear the airways and, you know, get the brain going. Bit of rosemary, bit of fresh basil. Chewing on a basil leaf will help your brain focus a little bit better. Rosemary is really good for concentration and memory. So there's lots of different things that you can do. You might have some supplemental herbs that work. You might have some liquid herbs. You might have some homeobotanicals. Just, you know, look at how your body feels and what you might need. Sleep. So this is not, am I asleep? This is, how well am I sleeping? Is sleep affecting my mental health? Is it affecting my mental wellness process? it could be that you need to start keeping a sleeping checklist, like what time am I waking up? I was talking to one of my clients yesterday who has never had trouble sleeping, but at the moment she's waking up at about 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, getting up, walking around, having a drink, coming back to bed and going back to sleep again. And she's like, and it's impacting on her ability to wake up feeling refreshed. So we're looking at ways that she can combat that. And also, you know, for women heading through perimenopause into that menopause state, you know, sleep is a thing that is highly disrupted for many of us. So it becomes a real problem, because if you're not getting that good, refreshing REM sleep, your body's not recovering overnight, you're waking up fatigued, you wake up in the morning and you're like, oh my goodness, I've got to get through the day. What do I need to do? And that's where having a little bit of a checklist, a little bit of a plan, it might, you know, like I said, it might be a colorful picture. It might just be a list like this, might be a little box of check boxes that you check every day. So, you know, that kind of thing. And then at the bottom of the list, I've got resources. So this is kind of like, I'm recommending my top 5 checklist, because that's what I work with. But you might have other resources. And I'm just going to share a few of the books that I've used as I got ready to do this webinar. So it might be that you grab one of those and you open it up to a page. You can get all those really groovy little books that have little sayings in. And if you've ever done a 12-step program, they have their own particular books. And you open them up on a date and it's got something in there that helps you get through. Really good idea to have them. They're just so useful to just kind of snap you out of where you're at, and kind of get you into a slightly different state, really, is what we're looking at. So that's about it, actually, from me. I'm going to flick a little slide up now, which I stole from the Mental Health Awareness Week, and I thought it was actually a really lovely thing to share. I'm not even going to try and do it in Māori today, because that's just beyond my scope for today. Sometimes I would, but you know, through listening comes knowledge. So this is all about just listening, processing and understanding. Through the knowledge comes the understanding. So this is where, once you've got those facts and you've got that understanding, you've got to form your own opinion of it. Through understanding comes wisdom. You suddenly become wiser. You can utilize this knowledge and you can do it. Through that wisdom comes well-being. And I think that is one of the key things around health and wellness. And this is what I try and do with my clients, is I say to them, you own your decisions, you own your health, and I can help you do that. And I'm seeing a lot of teenagers at the moment who are just struggling a little bit. There's been a bit of trauma for some of them, I think. For many of them, with not being in school fully for a couple of years and going to university, they're now having to actually engage and interact at a social level that they haven't had to do for the best part of at least 2 years of their schooling and their teenage lives. So it's just had a massive impact. And that was one of the reasons I kind of wanted to do this webinar. So I'm hoping that that's actually been useful for you. That's a wrap. So just to say thanks again for joining me. I hope this has added value to your day. I've done pretty well in keeping it around about 30 minutes, even though we started a bit late. So that's really good. If you've got questions and you're watching this later at any point in time, you can email deborah@nourish.co.nz. I will be uploading this to the NMHNZ YouTube channel and also to my own channel, and it will also be uploaded into my membership platform. The references that I've used, so this is something that is really important to me to share where I get some of this stuff from, because none of this is secret. The HTA, the Health Technology Assessment, is something that has just been released by the World Naturopathic Federation, and it's this amazing volume of information and research that backs up sound naturopathic practice. So I took the Section 5, Chapter 22, mental health conditions, and really looked at some of the stuff that they had in there. So that's been a valuable resource in actually putting some of this information together for this webinar. The books that I have currently sitting by my bed, I've got a few more, but they are not related to this particular one. So this is one that I was introduced to when I very first started my massage training, and it's called The Relaxation Response. Oops, camera's over there. By Dr. Herbert Benson. So this dates back, I think, to the 70s. And it was a study that they did on transcendental meditation and how it lowers blood pressure and de-stresses people. So there is research backing that up. And if it's not something that you're familiar with, I do strongly recommend that you look into aspects of meditation. You don't have to find a cushion and sit cross-legged. You can just sit on your couch, be mindful. And one of the things that I taught my clients through is a visualization where you just sit, you start breathing in and out, nice steady breaths. And once you feel like your breathing is nice and calm, you just close your eyes. And if you've got a busy mind, you want the thoughts to come in. So mine come in one side, they come in on my right hand side, they float down this little river. There's a beautiful little river. There's a little jetty there where sometimes these little thoughts stop and they kind of get stuck there, but they're not allowed to linger. So they move on. You want them to move on, then they move on and out they go into the ocean. And I used to do this at the end of a yoga class when we were doing Shavasana, and I found it just incredibly relaxing, and I still do it if I can't get to sleep at night. So it's a really powerful tool. It's not anything terribly woo-woo. It's just a very practical, functional switching the brain off tool. The Miracle of Mindfulness by Thich Nhat Hanh, that's something that people will be very familiar with. So that's a really good little book, just a little resourceful book, looks like that, it's about that thick. And you can open it up pretty much at any page, and there are little things that you can look at. There's a process day by day, and it talks through lots of different aspects of mindfulness. And I think there's so much out there about mindfulness, it's become a really commercial enterprise. The best thing that you can do is jump over to some of the resources in my membership platform, and there's links to some of our suppliers that do these great mindfulness videos and things like that. And the other two books that I really recommend, so one of them is Atomic Habits, which I came into this year, and this is about making small changes, and it's incredibly effective. It's he has done research, but I would have to say it's probably not something that is a phenomenon that's widely shared. But for me, it's really helped me get my clients on track with their health. And the other one, which I haven't got next to me for some reason, is The Better Brain by Julia Ruckledge. So this is out of Otago University, and it's all about micronutrients, and they do a Build a Better Brain free training course through Otago University that you can do. I think it's through Open University or something like that. But if you do a bit of research in there, you'll find that that's there, and that can be really powerful, just having that knowledge as well. You might have that book sitting there, and you might be able to refer back to it. Okie dokie, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Hopefully that's shared properly. Shelley's still with me. Shelley, did that screen share look okay? Hopefully.
I was just getting to unmute myself. Yeah, it did. Okay. Yeah, it did.
Right.
Yeah, no, it was really good. You're a really good speaker.
Oh, thank you. Have you got any questions?
I was waiting for you to share the books, but you did that. So yeah.
The other one is here. Here it is. I did have it. It was on the
I do have that book. That's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah. So Julia spoke at a conference earlier this year as well. She's really good.
Yes.
Really.
I listened to her. Who was the author of The Relaxation Response?
It's Dr. Herbert Benson.
Dr. Herbert.
I'm sure it's a tiny little book, it's just wee.
Yeah.
I've had this for years. It's all yellowed at the edges, and it's it is dated. I'm just going to have a look and see. I mean, I got this at Pinnacle Books. I don't even know if Pinnacle Books still exist. That was actually an actual bookshop that I got it from. So when was it? 1975 it's from.
Right, yeah. Might still be around.
It's still referred to quite a lot by people now, because I think it was just such a phenomenal study at the time.
Yeah.
And I know, so just a little bit of a disclosure, Shelley works for a company called FX Med, and they actually have in their resources some really good mindfulness videos as well. So that I have all links to those, I think, on my website and in my membership stuff as well. So I think it's really important for people who are watching this down the track to just kind of understand there's a lot of resource out there, but if you're not sure, just reach out, ask questions, and
thanks, Deb.
Yeah, so I'm just going to, I just want to say thanks for joining me. I will, like I said, I'll send all the notes out, and if anyone wants any more information, just email Deborah at nourish.co.nz. So I'm just going to stop the recording. So thanks again.